with the Nocturnal. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
It's the birds are chirping. It's not too hot, not too cold. So today's going good so far. So my first question is, what are you excited for fans and viewers to see in season two?
I just think season two is a better season. I think we learned a lot. I think we grew. I just feel like we found ourselves a little more this season. The first season was in a lot of ways experimental. Sometimes that whole season feels like a pilot to me because we were figuring out a format and we were taking some swings and we weren't sure what was going to work and what wasn't. And I think we really know ourselves this season as a show. And I just think overall it's gotten stronger as a product.
And in the scenes where everyone's together in the house, vibing and chilling, the conversations were very genuine and authentic. And I felt like I was having a conversation with my own friends. So, what do you think? Like, what do you hope fans and viewers will take away from watching the entire series?
I just hope, it's a conversation starter. I hope it makes people talk more and think more and question more. And I just hope, it adds some perspective. Maybe you hear something you didn't think about or an angle you hadn't considered, and that opens up your worldview.
And I just loved it. Felt like, are you guys all friends in that? Everyone that was in the house, was everyone friends?
I pretty much know everybody, or they're like a friend of a friend.
Okay. Because if it was so authentic and I could not stop laughing at times.
Yeah. I pretty much know every person.
What I like about the show is that there's a balance between both formal and informal interviews. And throughout the moments of comedy, there's still lessons and conversations that are about important topics that are being had. So, how important was it for you to have those aspects within the show?
I mean, I think that is the show, I think that was kind of what the goal was to be like, hey, let's have a conversation, how people actually have conversations. And like when people are actually chilling and talking, they're very candid. They might say things they're not necessarily supposed to say. They're very honest about like their opinions on things. And then we can take this stuff out into the world and meet some experts and have some interviews or meet someone with that actual lived life experience that we are pontificating on how they should feel or what they should do. Let's actually talk to the person, like I think about this season and, we do an episode about jail. And to me, it's one of my favorite episodes so far of the season, though it's hard to pick, like this is the one, but it's one of my favorites because it's executing one of the original goals of the show, which was like, I always said, like, I always see people and they will talk about all this stuff in a very intellectual way. You might get Colonel West to come down and say, like, this is what it is about the prison system and the prison industrial system is this and is that, or is this. And then they'll get like a reformed brother who'd been to jail who now has a corporation and he'll go like, this is the this and that is the that. But I was like, yo, I just know niggas on my block who've been to jail. Like, why aren't we just talking to niggas that go to jail and been to jail and have experienced jail? And that's what we do in this episode in like a real grounded kind of way. And so for me, I just, I feel like those are the spaces where we just got better as a show. And I hope when people hear these conversations coming from these actual people who go through this stuff and the genuineness and the honesty of it, stripped of the intellectualism and, kind of trying to put these things in numbers and boxes and squares, but really approaching it from an emotional space of these are life experiences and these things are happening to human beings. That it just opens people's world again and just gives them some perspective they maybe didn't have, some empathy they maybe didn't have.
Right. I think it gives better perspective and insight.
Yeah, hopefully.
Definitely, definitely. And from a comedic standpoint, when having conversations that most would consider controversial because of like the sensitivity levels, what's something that you keep in mind when connecting those subjects with humor?
Um, I don't know. I think as a comic, I just find things funny that I probably shouldn't. I've always been a person that laughs at, awkward situations. So it's like wherever the humor lies in it for me, I'm just honest about that. And
Right.
I think at the end of the day, this whole experience is a little bit funny, even when tragedy happens, it's still like God has a sense of humor. I've always kind of believed that. So I think it naturally is there.
Definitely. I definitely agree. I always find myself laughing. I like to say I like dark humor, but it's like the things that people wouldn't potentially automatically assume are funny are the things that crack me up the most.
Yeah. And I think especially like growing up, Black in America, I think we for sure found the comedy. You know what I mean? I feel like especially us, we are constantly laughing at things that if you're not of our community, you would not get it.
Definitely.
At all. So it's like, I always talk to my homies. I'm like, depending on how, I'll laugh if a nigga got shot, but it depends. It depends on the story. It depends on the situation. But when you grow up in that type of environment, everybody getting shot. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes you hear the story and you're like, he got shot like that. That's funny. So
like, dang, they got him like that.
Like, wow, that's wild. So I mean, that's kind of like the same way I approach the show. Is like you can have it hard, but it can also be funny.
Definitely, definitely. And we kind of bring me to my next question because in the show you talk about, it being hard for you to relate to gay culture and I feel like a lot of people probably do feel that way. So why do you think that is and how do you think things can be changed or altered to be more culturally relatable?
I mean, I think it's the same problem with all culture. White culture happens to be the dominant culture, and in that they sometimes, don't see that they're not being inclusive. I think especially in the gay community because we're already being ostracized by mainstream culture. I think they automatically think, oh, if you're gay and we're embracing you, then we're doing the work. And I don't think they're necessarily just, stepping outside of themselves a little bit to look at what the environment itself is. And I just think, people of color are marginalized, and that doesn't change when you become out and gay and proud. It doesn't change the marginalization that's going on.
And I think about two scenes in particular where you talked about having your own pride float, and the second being the naked basketball tournament. First off, if you do get a float, I want to be on it. And two, I would definitely buy a ticket to that basketball game. So, how do you feel? You mentioned in the show showing the messy side of Black culture. So, how do you think that can be done, and why do you feel like that'd be important?
I mean, I think it's important to show the mess of everybody, not specifically Black people, but I think where we really connect and where the honesty lies amongst us is in the mess, and I think we spend a lot of time hiding it. And it's like, well, that's where the story is. And that's where someone can really get to figure you out and know you. And so in the same vein, it's like with the naked booty basketball, it was just kind of like about self-expression, about freedom, and about showing all these different types of Black queerness in one space. And also straight people. It's like it doesn't have to be exclusively anything. It can just be Black.
I agree. I definitely agree. And that's why I said I would be front and center. And my last question is along with the conversations, you as well were going through your own personal journey throughout the show. So, how was that process for you?
Um, this season was kind of tough. There's some personal stuff in it. There's some heavy stuff, and it definitely dug up some feelings, and it was tough. We did an episode about death, and my mom passed away when I was young, and about my fear of death and kind of how it connects to that, and how does one really get past that, and how I feel like that fear of death in some ways is impeding my ability to live my life to the fullest. And within the actual filming of that episode, my grandmother passed away, which was really tough. So I just think I'm more emotionally invested in the season. And so it was, tough at times.
Goodness, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
No, thank you. No problem.
Yes, of course. And thank you so much for speaking with me today. It was a pleasure, and I enjoyed every ounce of the show.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for watching.